Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be learning how to cut a bustier. Now, to cut a bustier, we have a few measurements we're going to take. We're going to take the bust. Now, for the bust, we're using 38, the bust 38. We're going to divide 38 by 2, which will give us 19. Okay, let me use the tape and measure it so that you'll also be guided. I'm going to look for where I have 38 on this tape, and I'm going to take the tip of my tape to that 38, and I'm going to pull and check how many I'm going to have. So I have 19 plus 6 inches bustier allowance, or you can use 7 inches, but I'm going to be using 6 inches bustier allowance. 1 2 3 4 5 6 6 plus another 4 inches sewing allowance. 1 2 3 4. So this is what I'll use to cut the front of my blouse for my bustier, or for my top. Anyhow, this I'm going to use 29 to cut out this fabric. So I'm going to fold the two tips. I'm going to be cutting out this part because it's already torn. But see where I'm going to start from. So I'm folding into 2. This is it. So I folded this 29 inches into 2. I've not cut out my length yet. I'm going to show you how we're going to cut out the length. The length we're using is the half length of the person. But in this bustier, I'm going to remove 6.5 before I cut my half length. So we're going to fold this thing again into another two. But before we fold again, I will tell you the measurements we're going to use. First of all, you have to have the shoulder to bust, the under bust. You need the half length as well, with nipple to nipple measurement. So for the shoulder to bust, I have 10. For the under bust, I have 14. For the half length, I'm using 18. And for the nipple to nipple, I'm using 4. I hope this is clear. Okay. So for my half length now, I have 18. Because I'm going to be removing some, I want to add another thing up in the upper part of the clothes. So I'm going to be removing 6. So I will get my half length. My half length is 18. So I'll be marking 18 here. So I'm going to be folding with my nipple to nipple measurement. So I'm going to fold. When I fold, let me cut out the fabric. So I'm going to fold. When I fold, I will still check again if I have up to, because I'm using nipple to nipple 4 plus half inch sewing allowance. So what I should have is 4.5 when I'm folding. So this is more than, I'm going to reduce it a bit. So I have 4.5. Let me pin it. I'm going to continue this line here, this half length, because I don't want to cut this part out yet. This is what we'll be working with, this upper part for this class. So next, I'm going to measure 1 inch this way. I'm going to be measuring 1 inch. But before I measure 1 inch, I'm going to get my upper bust, my shoulder to bust, which gave me 10. I'm going to measure it. Please be careful. This material, I'm going to trim off the upper part. So when I trimmed off the upper part, it became less than 18. So I had to add another ½ inch. So with this now, I'm going to measure my shoulder to bust and my under bust, and I'll rule across. So this is it. Now for this part, I'm going to be having 1.5, because 38, when somebody has a bust of 38, that means the person is busty. But if you have a client who is not busty, you can use 1. You can use 1. For me, I'll be using 1.5, because I consider this client a busty client. So I'll roll down. Then I'll roll up to meet the under bust. Let me make sure that I have 1.5. So I've reached here. Once I reach here now, I'll measure 4.5. So this is it. This is my 4.5. I'm going to connect to this point. I'm going to connect to this point. Let me pin again. To this point. So I'll go this way. This is everything in this bust here starts and ends this way. Once you get your bust, your nipple point, your measurement, that's all. That's all. I'm going to be cutting now. I'm going to be notching, because it's important when you're sewing this part that you notch. I also notch here, but here is very important, so that when I'm sewing, I know where to pin together. I'm going to unpin this thing. Let me trim here off. I'm going to unpin and place it so you see how it's been made.